And welcome into the Thursday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Hope everybody's off to a wonderful start here on this Thursday morning. Now 1 week away from Christmas Day. 1 week. So here's your alert. If you've not done shopping, you are legitimately running out of time. 1 week away from Christmas Day. Joe Rexrode, happy Thursday to you. What's going on?
Happy Thursday. Not a whole lot. How you guys doing?
Doing very well. Late night at Bridgestone Arena last night. The Predators probably are glad that they only see the Carolina Hurricanes twice a year, once on the road, once at home. They do not match up very well with Carolina, and did not match up very well last night. So we will have Predators assistant coach Derek McKenzie later in the program at 8:30 to talk more about that. But did not go well for the Nashville Predators last night. Ian Safar, good morning. How are you? What's going on?
Good morning. I went to sleep at 9 last night. I was super tired. So it was 1-0. Made it through 2 periods for the Preds. Missed the third. But yeah, hard to believe. 1 week till Christmas.
Yeah.
This year went by quickly.
It did. Sure did.
2025. Just like that, in the books.
In the books. We are getting to the end here.
Yeah, but doing great. Happy Thursday, everybody.
We got a lot going on the show today, and we got some moving parts today as well. Charles Robinson is normally with us at 8 o'clock on Thursdays. Today will be at 7:30, so 7:30 to 8. We'll have Charles on the show. Derek McKenzie, Predators assistant coach, at 8:30 today on the program, which also means we're moving the Rexrode around a little bit. It'll be at 6:45. Best and worst things in sports coming up at 8:45 with some scheduling stuff that we got going on. So moving some stuff around today here on the program, but we got a lot to get to on the program. And we'll start here where there was a lot of conversation locally yesterday about Cam Ward and some things that he had to say at his weekly press conference yesterday. So let's just start there. Terry McCormick asked Cam Ward about the coaching search, what his involvement will look like, what he wants his involvement to look like, and Cam Ward's answer created a lot of conversation around here yesterday. Here's what Titans quarterback Cam Ward had to say yesterday at his media availability.
Like to be in on the front, not hiring the guy, but as far as, meeting all the candidates that they bring in and kind of seeing what they have in mind maybe for you.
I want to meet all of them. Every coach who's going to get the opportunity to come here, I want to meet them, have conversations throughout the whole process with them, because that's someone that I'm going to be here with, for that time. So we got to just continue to, me being around and being open to no matter whoever we try to hire, because I know at the end of the day, who we do hire is going to be the right fit for us. Whether it's a defensive person or offensive person, they're going to make sure that every person, in the right place and make sure that every person is set up for success.
Have you had conversations already with Mike and Chad about wanting to be involved with this, or maybe what some of the qualities you might want?
Yeah, I've had conversations with them about wanting to be involved. They know how much I want to be involved. And then especially just not even with the scheme part of it, just, as the head coach, who he is on an everyday basis. And then we'll get into, the scheme, what, I know I'm good at, what I want to do, what he thinks, will also help me.
So that was Cam Ward yesterday on his involvement level that he would like to have as the Titans go out and hire their next head coach. So, Joe, I'll just your immediate reaction to that, what you heard from Cam Ward there. What do you make of what the Titans quarterback had to say there on the coaching front?
Well, my immediate reaction, first of all, is I like what he had to say. I like how invested he wants to be and how involved he wants to be. I think that's great. And then also in tandem with that, I guess it's more of a question like, do people do this? Do teams do this? I mean, I haven't heard of a quarterback being as involved in a coaching search as he just described there.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be unprecedented, but maybe I'm wrong about that. It's actually a really interesting question. It's just a week of questions. I need to know about that. I need to know about people's security systems. There's a lot that this week has illuminated that we need to learn. But
how involved is Nick Saban going to be on the Preds penalty kill? A lot of things we need to get to the bottom of.
There you go. Maybe Derek McKenzie can. Maybe Saban has screamed. Maybe Saban screamed him last night on FaceTime. I mean, who knows? We'll find out. Yeah, I don't know. So when you say you got a lot of reaction, is the reaction like Titans fans dunking on that?
Oh yeah, like there's it's a debate, and Willie and D-Mace had this debate yesterday. Like I think to a lot of people it sounds like, wait a minute, so you want to be like involved in terms of the selection process of the coach? And I understand you're the first overall pick, but you've not really done much in this league yet, and you've not earned the right to be involved with the head coach. I hear it, and my immediate reaction was kind of like you. Like it was, okay, I understand and appreciate to some level his willingness to be around and be involved in it. I guess my real question is, what does involved mean? Because I have no problem throughout the hiring process here that they're about to embark on over the next few weeks, Joe. Like if they're bringing in coaches and Cam Ward's around the building and they're talking to Cam Ward and they're going over some things with Cam Ward in terms of like scheme and all that stuff, well, that's fine. Like I don't really have a huge problem with that. But if involved means like, I want to have a say in who you hire, like that to me is a very different thing, right? Like that cannot happen. And I don't think it will happen, but that cannot happen with the Tennessee Titans.
Well, I guess maybe it's semantics, but I mean, I don't have a problem with him giving his input. But yeah, obviously, like it's not like when they all, okay, guys, let's all and Cam, I mean, that's not going to happen. But as far as like him talking, like think about it in terms of, company will hire a new, chief officer, CEO or CFO or something, and they will talk to employees at all levels, of the company coming in. Like they're not just talking to like the board or whatever it is. That's just, I mean, so the involvement's fine. Yeah. And look, Cam's going to make his opinion known, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously it's that I'm sure that would be unprecedented. Like a quarterback, like being like, oh, hold on, guys, no, don't start the meeting without me. All right,
yeah,
get my seat there, and then now let's talk this through. Yeah, there's got to be a boundary there for sure.
Well, I guess I would like a little bit more clarity on exactly what he's talking about, because again, I think there are all sorts of different levels of involvement here, right? Like being invested in the coaching search and offering your opinions on guys and I guess schemes that they want is fine, but like honestly, if I'm the Titans, it's like I hired Mike Borgonzi and he made the decision to bring you in as quarterback, and we'll see if that ends up being the right decision or not. But now I'm going to trust him to go hire the coach. And, is it unprecedented in the league for a quarterback to be heavily involved in a coaching search? I mean, I don't know. It kind of sounds like, what Rodgers tried to do in Green Bay a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's something like that you would think would be different.
But it's also like, Aaron Rodgers at that point of his career probably needs to be involved, right? Like Tom Brady I don't know. Let's play the hypothetical. Like if Belichick ever up and retired while Brady was in New England, it probably would have made sense to have Tom Brady pretty involved in the coaching process, right? Like Peyton Manning being involved in a coach hiring process makes a lot of sense. I don't know that Cam Ward, all due respect, and being drafted number 1 overall, and that's great. To me, there's a level you got to get to in the league, and that it's impossible for him to be there at this point. There's a level you got to get to in a league where you start to have some of those conversations.
Yeah, obviously even if you had a great rookie year, like if it was Jaden Daniels this offseason and Dan Quinn decided to retire, it's still, he had a great year, but it's still like 1 year. I mean, obviously this is going to be something that'll get the Cam do's and the what are you doings yelling at each other. Like Lenny says, why should Cam be involved in the search of a new coach when he won't even be playing after midseason next year? Jeez. Yeah, right. So, Texter says Cam just doesn't want a coach who's going to control him or want to get Mendoza and say, yeah, do you hate Fernando Mendoza? Yeah. Let me know.
Yeah.
What do you think
still be
Fernando?
On the list.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. I'd be interested to hear the the Borgonzi, I guess, / Brinker thought on that.
Yeah.
Even like, I mean, if you're Cam, if you want to be realistic about it, then I don't know if he's like friends at all with Caleb Williams, but okay, how about that? I mean, Caleb Williams, I think, had some involvement, it sounded like, but I mean, I don't it doesn't sound like it was like this level.
No,
you know,
I mean, like,
some
I think
guys
Caleb
in
Williams put
similar
out a public statement of like, or he was asked by somebody if like he wanted Ben Johnson. He was like, yeah, it'd be cool.
right. Yeah. Well, then didn't he think it was Ben Johnson? And then he flipped
Yeah,
out or
he
something,
did.
but it was a fake account. Yeah. So, but like, you know, ask some of these guys who are in similar situations. There actually are quite a few examples of young quarterbacks who have had to have this change. And what kind of involvement did they have? It's probably none of, I would guess, not to the level he's talking about.
So we'll take your reaction to this. Cam Ward discussing the involvement level that he wants to have as the Titans search for their next head coach. A lot of different thoughts on this already. Take more of them at 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game, discussing Cam Ward and his comments from yesterday, saying that he'd like to have some involvement in the head coaching search for the Tennessee Titans, as he's talked about that with Borgonzi and Brinker. Taking your thoughts on that. A lot of different thoughts on the Cam Ward front. Joe, I want to get to this one from LD from McMinnville. Says,
a true Cam do here.
Says, having to earn the right to have a say is such an old school, outdated, prehistoric way of thinking. If we want to see this team be successful, they should want the quarterback to be married and attached at the hip with a new coach. Therefore, let him have some input. He's not going to make the choice, but at least have some input. My question to that is, what does input mean, right? Like, what is Cam Ward having input? Because, like, it sounds nice, like your quarterback having some input on the next coach. But what does that mean? Like, Cam Ward has not worked with any of these guys. Like, Cam Ward hasn't worked with Robert Saleh or, Mike McCarthy and any of these guys. So, like, I'm sure that if you set all those guys down, they could talk schemes and they could talk about what Cam Ward's comfortable with and all those things. But what does input mean for the rookie quarterback as this decision is going on, right? Like, I don't know. Like, you're talking about a very short period of time, by the way, where all this is going to happen, right? Like, you're going to meet with these guys very quickly. And within a matter of days or weeks at most, like, you're going to have a decision made on who your next head coach is going to be. So, like, I don't know. Like, you'd have to really lay out to me what is input that Cam Ward is going to be having in this.
Yeah. Well, and the input that should happen is definitely. I'm going to, if I'm these guys, I'm going to Cam and whatever level of, I guess, information he gets, however he gets it, talking to the coach or we relay stuff to him, whatever. Definitely want his input on offensively, the scheme and everything, and whether he thinks that will suit him and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, we go back to those Cam comments that we played in the first segment. He was like, no, beyond that, like, like I want to, like he's
talking about the day to day of being a coach,
yeah, all that stuff, and it's like, well, I will say, I mean, it's like if you trust Cam to have the pulse of the team, you do want him to lead your team, right? I mean, you want him to lead your locker room. He's a rookie now. We know this, but also he didn't ask for like this situation of this early in his career being in the coaching search. But I guess it's like, if you trust him to be able to, one, evaluate people, and then also kind of tell you, okay, I think, whatever, I think this guy could work. It's also different. It's like, if you have coaches who have been head coaches and have had a level of success and all that stuff, then I think it's a little less of a deal. But let's say one of these guys who have not been. So obviously Brian Callahan had the pedigree and all this stuff, had the background, had great ratings on the player survey, but obviously had never done the CEO thing.
Yep.
Didn't work out, wasn't good at it. Like, let's say a guy like a Brady. I'd be interested to get a player perspective on whether they think it would work. I mean, again, it's just one piece of input. It's not going to direct the whole search, but I mean, in some ways, I don't hate this idea for teams to do this a little bit more. And again, I don't know exactly. This is another story I'd like to read, is in these interview searches, like, what is the most extensive player involvement in some of these things? Here's a quick "What are you doing?" From Jeff from Nebraska. Says, maybe Cam will help choose the coach that will coach him to not miss a wide open touchdown every game. Very good. What are you doing?
Heard a lot of that,
Jeff,
over the last day. Heard a lot of that. Again, like, I guess I understand the scheme part of it, like wanting to make sure that they're okay with the scheme fit. But like Mike Borgonzi knows the scheme fit. Like Mike Borgonzi knows what scheme, like I'm sure he's talked with Cam Ward already about, scheme fits and what he's looking for and what he's comfortable in. Mike Borgonzi was the general manager who drafted Cam Ward, who scouted Cam Ward, who should know what Cam Ward's strengths are. So again, I think the input that keeps getting thrown around here is something that makes people feel good. But when you really actually look at it, it's like, what does that actually mean? Because I don't know what input that we're magically going to have from Cam Ward over the next few weeks, particularly with guys who I think are going to be getting these interviews, which are, I think, largely, Joe, going to be guys who have been head coaches in this league before. Like, I don't really know what input you're looking for from Cam Ward there. They all know what the scheme is. Mike Borgonzi should know what schemes Cam Ward is comfortable with at this point. So, personality fit, maybe, I guess. But I think input is just a word we throw around without actually digging into what that actually means.
Well, I disagree a little bit on the scheme thing, just because it depends on how deep you want to get into it. I mean, yeah, he knows the general scheme, but I mean, I think Cam and a coach could get into some really granular stuff too, on like a lot of different plays and things like that. I mean, I think it could go deeper.
Well, I'm sure they could, but like, let's play that out. Let's say they get in there's a scheme conversation between Cam Ward and Mike McCarthy, right? And they get into it on a granular level. And Cam Ward comes back to you and be like, I don't know, man. I don't think that's going to work. Are you going to not hire Mike McCarthy because Cam Ward's like, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be a fit.
Again, I'd take the input, and the ground rules are pretty clear right away. Excuse me. Which is, look, man, like, we're happy to have your input. I mean, but like no player has ever like participated as if they're an officer of the team in a hire. So like, we'll take it. Want you to talk to people. That's great. We appreciate the level of involvement and the interest you have. I mean, this isn't, you're not just like showing up to work and like, whatever, that's great. But also, like, there's a limitation on what it means. I mean, like Chip from Mount Juliet, extensive Warder you're doing here with LOL. Cam needs to concentrate on his job, period. He has no say. He's an employee. It's one cocky dude who hasn't mastered his craft yet, LOL. Again, but look, no one's arguing that he's a great player. I mean, I do think there's a difference between him or any really young player, one young quarterback, and the very established guy you were talking about, Aaron Rodgers, or if there was a situation with like a Brady in his time. I mean, that would be different. But how different would that be? I don't know. I'd love to know. Again, what's the most extensive you can do? But input, I don't have a problem with input. It's just as long as you understand, like, whatever you tell us will be taken into account. That is not going to direct our search.
Let's head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Mark in Nashville to the program. Mark, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, how you doing, Robby? What's up, Joe?
What's up, Mark?
Yeah, how you doing? Robby, I think that, Cam made a comment to all the coaches. Now, I think when it gets down to about one or two, you're going to be making your final choices between those guys. I think it'd be okay for him to come in. I understand what you're saying about the input and whatnot. I think Cam I'm going to use the word, schematics, and wants to know what kind of offense they're going to be running. Is it going to fit his need, his progression, him getting better? I mean, I can understand that. Cam's got a lot on him. I mean, he's got that prove it to me moment coming up, Robby. This year hadn't been a great year. Next year he's got to show it, man. He's got to show why he was the number one pick. I mean, he's gonna have a lot of pressure on him. But I want to ask you and Joe a question why I got you on here.
Okay.
Robby and Joe, if you all own the Tennessee Titans, you and Robby, I don't think I've heard y'all say this. Who would be y'all's choice, or you and Robby's choice? Y'all sit down and talk to each other. Y'all made the final decision. Who would be y'all's choice to be the next head coach to get the Tennessee Titans to where they need to be? A coach with leadership, strong skills, a coach that can turn this around. Who would be y'all's coach?
Yeah, I mean,
we'll talk to y'all later.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, we can just pick whoever. I'll pick Mike Tomlin. But
it's possible that he's going to be out there. I still find that unlikely. So, I mean, of what I think to be realistic candidates, if I had to choose right now, I would probably go McCarthy if it was just me. I'll put it to you this way. I don't love any candidate, right? There's not one candidate that is out there right now that is of the obvious names that we're talking about. So I'm taking Tomlin out of it. I don't know that he's going to be available. People have brought up John Harbaugh. I don't think John Harbaugh is going to be available. So of the candidates that I know that I think are going to be available, there's not anybody out there that I absolutely love. Like, I don't love Nagy. I'd be okay with Nagy. I don't love Saleh. I'd probably be okay with Saleh. But like all these guys have flaws, McCarthy included. But with where they are right now as a team, he would probably be my choice.
Yeah, actually, Mark, I'm sticking. I've said it before, and I'm sticking with it, which is Saleh. And you have to have a good OC. I would love the Saleh McDaniel combination. I'm sticking with that.
615-737-1025, our phone number. A lot more thoughts to get to on this front. We will do that. A special edition of the Rex Rant coming up at 6:45 today on the program as well. We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. We have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up here in just a few minutes at 6:45. taking your thoughts on Cam Ward at 615-737-1025. Joe, so far, I think a nice representation on the text line of what this debate has been like over the last 18 hours or so in the city. A lot of people on both sides of the argument of, yeah, Cam Ward probably should worry about his game and should be involved in the coaching search, or why wouldn't you want Cam Ward involved in the coaching search here? Rexrode's first mute of the day.
Dang it. Sorry. This is a tremendous mobilizing of the Cam dudes and the Ward are you doing.
It really is.
It really is. Like, Brian, getting input if it's Brady, Rodgers, but QB would come off a bad year. No. Trevor says, Cam Ward's question to possible candidates. What are your thoughts on punting from the opponent's 40? David from Paris, input means he wants a new coach to give him Xavier Restrepo.
Yeah.
Not sure about that. But again, LD, the leader of the Cam Dudes today, says, as a fan of the team and a long-suffering fan, I want Ward or any QB to be able to explain to the coaches what best benefits him and the offense. There is. I would also say that. The coach might want to hear from him too.
Yeah, and again, like, I don't have a problem with at some point during the process there being conversations, right? Like, I think that happens probably a lot, right? Like, prospective coaches, especially when you get down to like the nitty gritty of it and you're making a decision and maybe it's between two people, like you have conversations with your quarterback at that point. I think, again, this just comes down to, Cam Ward made it seem like yesterday with that answer, as you pointed out, Joe, that it was more than just, yeah, I'll have a conversation at the end of the interview process about scheme, right? Like, he wants to be, it sounded to me like he wants to be involved kind of like start to finish in this thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But he talked about the day-to-day of, like, being a coach. Like, it sounded to me like he wants to be involved in kind of the whole thing.
Does he want to, like, retire as a player and become part of the front office? I mean, they have a lot of and they got a lot of cooks in the kitchen. I mean, maybe, just make him an assistant GM.
Well, maybe so.
Skylar says this radio station is so good at talking about something stupid with the Titans. We need the Titans to be good so we can stop having stupid topics like this. Blow up the radio station for 2 days. LOL. I guess I didn't realize it blew up the radio station already. I think it's an interesting topic. I mean, look.
Would you like us to talk about the 2-12 football team?
I know we
could break down the Chiefs game on Sunday.
We can dig in on this matchup on like what kind of rush lanes you need to maintain against Gardner Minshew. Yeah. I mean, certainly, if you'd like that, let us know. Skylar, we'll offer you input. See, we're talking about input here. We
welcome all input.
So please tell us the Titans football topics that we should dig deep on.
We welcome all input on the Titans. Clint in Clarksville says, foolish not to get a coach that matches his game.
Agree.
But what does that mean? It's what I keep coming back to in this. Like, do we think that, like, Robert Saleh or Mike McCarthy or, like, do we think these guys can't mold a scheme around Cam Ward? Like, if you think that, then Mike Borgonzi should know that. Like, I guess what I'm trying to get to the bottom is like, what do we think all these conversations with Cam Ward is going to really impact with the coaching search? That's what nobody can really nail down for me in this conversation.
Yeah. Well, so this is where where you kind of draw the line between the established guys and the not, because it appears that Brian Callahan, who did all the work on drafting Cam and talking to him and had all those months to scheme and then the mini camp and all the spring and all the summer and all that stuff, it appeared that he still didn't put in a lot of stuff that Cam wanted and was comfortable doing, and did put in a lot of stuff that he wasn't comfortable doing and didn't like. So I mean, as stupid as that sounds, it does sound like it should be pretty freaking simple, right? Here's what this guy does well. Here's what he doesn't do well. Okay, let's go. But apparently it is hard for people to divorce themselves from, like, this is what my offense is. And and again, coaches like that, to me, rarely work out. So I guess it's like if it's a Brady, a Kubiak, something like that, maybe it's a little bit more.
Yeah.
Let's make sure this guy like can figure this out. But again, is Cam Ward the key to finding that out? I don't know. I mean, I have not seen Cam Ward interview. I'd like to see Cam Ward interview people. I think it could be pretty good.
But I mean, again, like I'm not saying scheme's not important because it is, obviously. I mean, we just went through some of that with the last coach. But like, what would we say is Cam Ward's biggest issue right now? It's a couple things. Number one, it's the talent around him. Not very good, right? So regardless of who your coach is and what your scheme is, you need to improve the talent around him. And number two is he misses too many wide open throws that you can't miss. Well, that has nothing to do with the scheme, right? Like that, like, so
Sure.
I need a coach that helps him with his footwork, that's able to work with him, and that gets him mechanically to a place where he needs to be, where he's not missing wide open receivers all the time. Like, I think we're way overblowing scheme in this, I guess is what I keep coming back to. Like, I understand that scheme is important in the National Football League. I think particularly if you're hiring a coach that's a play caller in tandem with it, feel of the game is important. Like we've talked about all that stuff before. But Cam Ward's biggest issue right now, I don't think is the scheme. I think it's number one, he doesn't have any good players around him. And number two, mechanically right now, he's got a lot of work to do. So that's what I care about. Can we get that part of it fixed? Then I think you'll see the scheme, regardless of what it is, magically improve if Cam Ward is hitting the wide open receivers on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. Of course, there's a lot more that needs to happen for winning to happen. But they are in a coaching search, and so and again, Cam did say, like he said, it's not just about scheme. That's where it gets into the interesting, like, I don't know, the idea of like just do we value a player's thoughts on like what a guy will be like in the locker room? And again, that gets into, to me, more important when it's someone who hasn't done this at this level as a head coach and someone as opposed to someone who has. And now we've got a bunch of texts about John Gruden. So here we go. Let's go. Yeah. It was the natural progression. Time for some groomers.
Yeah. Maybe that's the I don't know. Would you interview him? I mean, he hadn't been a head coach in the NFL in a while. Hasn't really had success as a head coach in the NFL for 20 years. But Joe, I mean, if they want to interview John Gruden, they have had a long time to formulate that plan. So maybe that's in the works.
I mean, all he does every day is he gets like some like merch from some like random Mac team and then has a fashion show. So yeah, you definitely have had time to talk to that dude.
You do. Johnny in Hendersonville says, I'd be way more interested in what a prospective head coach says about his plan for Cam Ward. Would he be able to have an offense based around Ward's strength, or even bring back Ryan Fitzpatrick and let Ward sit for a year? There we go. Now we're getting there.
Ooh. Oh, wow. Okay.
Do we mean Tannehill? Like, are we really going all the way back to Fitzpatrick? That would be my question. Is Tannehill what he was going for there?
Fitzpatrick's beard looks great still every Thursday night.
It does.
Yeah. LD's still pushing. Robby, stop focusing on his faults. Yes, his faults will be worked on, but let's focus on what Cam does well.
That's fine, but like my point is, it doesn't matter what coach you hire with scheme. If they don't fix the accuracy problems, it's not going to matter. Things. He's not going to be the quarterback anymore.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That stuff. Yeah, I go back to the coaching search, quote unquote search, although it was really like, okay, we've got him all ready to go. But like with Mariota, again, not all, but like half of the press conference when Vrabel got hired was, what are you going to do to get the most out of Marcus Mariota? And it's funny because at that point, I believe I'm quite sure. At that point, Vrabel was still hoping to hire Ryan Day away from Ohio State. And then basically John Robinson convinced LaFleur, your favorite coach of all time, to come and be the play caller. So like, again, Mariota at that point had a tremendous second season, had just won a playoff game in his third season, even though the season didn't go as well, but a lot of people blame the OC. And basically, like, they brought in Vrabel. Vrabel's the coach, and then it's just sort of like, okay, let's just figure out some some OC, and it was totally different schemes and all that stuff. It's interesting to think back on that, where it's just like, I mean, now granted, Mariota is the type of guy who would be like, oh yeah, whatever you think, that sounds good. Oh, great, okay, I'll just show up to work. It's 4 a.m. Thank you. So a little different, but yeah, I like where his heart is on this.
Sure.
I'm very interested, I'm very interested to hear from the front office about how they, it's probably a lot of like, yeah, Cam, sure, like we want you to talk to the guy, but you got to kind of gently say, like, you're not like actually hiring him, like, you get that, right?
Right. Let's head back to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Tracy to the program. Tracy, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, thank you. It's the first time I ever called, but
Thank you.
I don't know if this could actually happen. This may be a crazy thought, but actually, I think there's only one coach you could really get. I don't know if you can actually get him or not, but I really think Jeff Fisher. And the only reason why I say that is because Jeff Fisher, if he can put that running game right, he can get that defense right. But most importantly, I think he can get that culture right. Now, obviously, I know he's like 67, but if you can get him for at least couple of years, 2 or 3 years, just to build that culture. And then maybe another coach can come in after that, maybe after 3 years. But I think that's the right fit.
Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate the call. I mean, what a story that would be.
I disagree.
That could come all the way back around.
Yeah. Well, the problem is you can't go 8-8 anymore in the NFL.
So would it be 8-9 or 9-8?
I don't know.
There's some years 9-8 would get you in.
9-8 other years, yeah. I mean, some years 8-9 might get you in this division. Although now all of a sudden it's just the absolute
juggernaut
monsters of the Mason-Dixon line. But
who knows? Philip Rivers if he plays well down the stretch, he may come back next year.
You know what I like is that Philip Rivers immediately got that NFL medical care for his family. Good job, buddy. Yeah, I don't think Jeff Fisher's going to be the coach.
I don't think so either. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Hey, I bet you're glad you made the drive, huh? Holla and Haig, the preparation age. Drop trowel. I'm going to stick this in your ass. The bigger the cushion, the sweeter the pushing. Let's move on from the butt to the foot. Do you know your elbow from your ass?
Does Preparation H help with any gout?
I don't know if gout can affect ears.
We're going to go out there. We're going to fart.
Which one of you has gout?
More of a discussion about Preparation H at any point anywhere in the last 5 years than there is right now on this show.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now.
It is time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. Joe, take over because I'm losing it in here. Go ahead.
I totally forgot about Preparation H Day. Oh, boy. By the way, it does not cure gout, just in case anyone wanted to know. Yeah. But it's a fine medicine. No free ads, but go get yourself some Preparation H this Christmas season. Okay. I just have to. I had to hit this at some point, and Joel Klatt. I think he's a decent game analyst. I think like a game with Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt, like Fox Big Noon Saturday. I think he's fine. I think it breaks down the scheme pretty well and all that stuff. He is a little bit of a suck up to certain coaches / programs. I mean, if you ask Joel Klatt right now, he would tell you like Jim Harbaugh should be like knighted and also sainted. I think so. Yeah, he seems to, when he talks. When he does like his own podcasts or does interviews apart from a game, it's different. It is very, I don't know, man. Like it's kind of like a brown nosing Skip Bayless at times.
Oh,
so again, like fine as a game analyst. I don't know. He just has some really bizarre takes, but this take right here that we'll play, and I apologize, I don't remember what podcast this is from. It's been blasted all over the world this week. This is really special. Here's Joel Klatt.
Nobody cares in football about that. We don't want Cinderellas. We want the best teams playing each other at the end. In fact, hot take. I mean, like the hottest of all takes that I've ever had in my entire life. The NCAA basketball tournament is a joke. It's the dumbest tournament and the least fair tournament in all of sports. We go and we put teams at odd times on neutral sites in a one game affair. Like that doesn't crown a true champion. We're not doing anything that tells us who's the best team over the course of the entire season. You know, like if anything, the NCAA basketball tournament should act exactly like the old World Cup, which we should have groups. They should all get guaranteed 3 games, and they should be played at the higher seeds arena so that those seeds are rewarded for a quality game. And that way we don't just get to see Kentucky one and done against George Mason or something like that. Well, that's stupid. That's stupid. Again, hottest of all takes, but that would make the NCAA basketball tournament far better. Neutral site, one and dones. What are we doing?
Yeah, you know who loves that though is CBS. I mean, it's great for CBS.
I guess.
Well,
it sucks for the fans.
CBS paid billions of dollars for it. Yeah. No, I'm with you.
True.
It doesn't determine, I think more often than not, when we get our football national champion, you're able to look back and say, yeah, it's probably the best team all season. Or
I think
close enough. I'm comfortable
so
with it. Yeah.
I mean, I thought the year Georgia missed a couple of years ago, I was like, when Michigan won,
I
was like, man, that was a tough one when Bama beat them in the SEC championship game. But that's a hot take.
Great take.
Yeah, sucks for the fans. They've been clamoring for this tournament to change. It's not very popular or good. It's not fair to have teams play games to determine a champion. They should be in groups and have a bunch of games. Like this is so bad. I can't get mad. I can't yell about this. I actually would like someone else to yell about this.
The first 5 words.
It's truly like just incredible.
First 5 words, I was with him. He said, we don't really want Cinderellas, and college football. We want the best teams playing for the championship. I was like, yep, okay, yep. And then pretty much everything he said after that, I was like, oh, we're going off the rails here. I had not seen that clip until I just heard it. So I was wondering where this would go. But, yeah, that's a scorcher right there. The NCAA tournament. What did he say? The worst tournament?
It's a joke. Yeah, it's
dumbest tournament, least fair in
yeah.
all of sports?
Least fair, not
Okay.
fair. I mean, like, so Dustin from Hockey was like, oh, I agree. Oakland doesn't beat Kentucky 2 or 3 games. Right. That's why the tournament's great. And again, if you're a fan of any of these top programs, you have an experience like that. Now, Kentucky, unfortunately, has a few in the latter years of Cal, but everybody has that. My last game on the Michigan State beat was Middle Tennessee 15 seed beating Michigan State in St. Louis. Everybody has those. And to me, it's not worth even counter arguing Joel Klatt on this. It's so stupid.
Well,
it really.
As Mitch in Bellevue points out, how long does he want this tournament to be? There's 68 teams in this thing, boss. You want to put everybody in groups? Good grief.
Yeah, and also, so Nate says he knows college football is mostly neutral site, one and done, right? Yeah. Well, I assume, honestly, I didn't hear the entire podcast, but I think that's part of how he got here, right? Is complaining about that. And if anybody wants to complain about the neutral site quarterfinals, well, we know, we've done that plenty. And here we are again this year. The top 4 seeds don't get a home game. That's stupid. Also, for Joel Klatt, who thinks like it's unfair, the basketball is unfair. The 8 seed won the football national championship last year. It's just like I don't want Joel Klatt to watch sports anymore, and I don't want him to comment on sports anymore. Is there any way that we can get this done?
He was right about one thing. It's a hot take. It's a scorcher.
Can we get Joel Klatt occupied? Look, we got Cam Ward helping with the Titans interview. Can we get Joel Klatt in here too? Maybe just so that we don't have to hear his takes about sports anymore. Can someone offer him a job that he can't possibly refuse, that will get him off the airwaves talking about sports? That's my holiday wish.
Well, and think about this too. As we know, Joe, like at some point, much to the chagrin, I think, of all of us, the NCAA tournament probably going to expand at some point too. And then we get this group stage play that he's talking about. You'd have to start the tournament in October, get that thing wrapped up by March.
Or you could have like this weekend, we're going to have some college football playoff games that are going up against NFL games. So we could have like the NBA finals and then also the NCAA finals, all sort of like basketball heaven in July.
Yeah.
June and July. Sounds great.
That would be good.
My God, Joel Klatt.
Yeah, that's a special one. I've not heard that one. Not heard that one before. Look, even somebody like me, who, as you know, big college basketball fan.
Yeah.
The tournament's pretty great. I think we should probably just leave it alone. Sometimes it's okay in sports just to leave things alone.
Right. Like, yeah, you're a great example of, you don't really get into college hoops during the regular season, which is fine, but the tournament, come on.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's pretty great. It's, again, to me, the best memories of just general sports drama that I have are from this thing, which I can't, again, I actually feel dirty even addressing the things he said now. I'm actually mad at myself now for amplifying this garbage.
Yeah, you gave it one more.
Again.
Yeah, you gave it one more video when I had to record it, so I got an extra view out of it.
If it somehow results in Joel Klatt never speaking publicly again, it'll all be worth it.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll get back into the Titans coaching search coming up next. Charles Robinson will be with us at 7:30 today on the program. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We will have Charles Robinson at 7:30 this morning. He will be with us from 7:30 to 8. Predators assistant coach Derek McKenzie with us at 8:30. Preds lose last night to the Carolina Hurricanes. We will have him a little bit later in the program. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Joe, would you be interested to know, or maybe even guess? I'm looking at betonline.ag right now, okay? The odds to be the next Tennessee Titans head coach. If you had to identify a favorite, who do you think it would be?
Let's see. I probably would put, I guess, McCarthy.
That is correct. He is the favorite at plus 300.
Right.
Well done. I think some people would have said Nagy, and he is actually sixth on the list. The number 2 on the list, I don't know that this is going to happen. So I'll just read the first 6 for you, all right? McCarthy at plus 300. Cliff Kingsbury at plus 350 in the number 2 spot. Robert Saleh at number 3 at plus 500. Mike Kafka at plus 650. Clint Kubiak at plus 700. Matt Nagy plus 900. Those are your top 6 for the Tennessee Titans right there.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, again, this Vegas, I think a lot of Vegas odds are not. I think some people think Vegas odds are more meaningful than they are.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they can be. Sometimes information can be shared, but for the most part, it's just, again, you're guessing and you're trying to put together odds and lines that will get betting, that'll inspire people to bet. So,
Sark at plus 1,600.
No, there we go. No, got any Saban? Got any Kiffin?
I do not have Saban or Kiffin. I do have Eddie George at plus 6,600.
No,
and Gruden at plus 5,000.
I was gonna. Okay, so there is a Gruden. No Jeff Fisher.
No Jeff Fisher. He did not make the list.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, the Kingsbury is interesting. Kingsbury second. I mean, the Kingsbury thing is obviously it didn't go well.
Yeah.
I think probably more people would like to blame Kyler Murray than him, but I don't know. Did he handle it great? Maybe not. But then again, you can say the same thing about Saleh, I suppose.
Well, Kingsbury, the thing that gives me Kingsbury, I think, is a good offensive mind. He's a good play caller, I think. But Kingsbury has never been a good head coach, even in college, right? Texas Tech, he was 35-40. And look, I realize that Texas Tech,
it's about what they are.
Doesn't have some rich history, before NIL of all the money that they've got now. And we'll find out in the playoff here. But Texas Tech doesn't have some rich history of big time success. So I get that. But you're talking about a 35-40 head coach in college and a guy who wasn't very good in Arizona as head coach. So I frankly don't have a whole lot of interest in Cliff Kingsbury being the head coach of the Titans.
Yeah, he hasn't been one of the ones that I've really been excited about. Again, it's funny because obviously the unknown is undefeated, right? So someone like that, I could still make a better case for, okay, has been through some of that stuff, maybe learned from it, things like that. Now is with a really good, I think, culture head coach and everything, and has done well. You can make the case that someone like that would be a safer pick than a Brady, a Kubiak, who has not done it, has not failed at it, right? Has not actually sat in that chair. So guys like that, to me, you better be blown away. And again, remember going back just a couple of years ago to how blown away you were by Brian Callahan.
Yeah. Well, there's another guy on the list that we've talked a lot about before. I think he's 8th on the list at plus 1,200. And I'm interested to see the way the season finishes out here. They've gotten 2 big wins in a row. Rodgers is playing really well at quarterback right now over the last couple of games. Arthur Smith, we've talked a lot about him. Obviously, he's been a head coach. It didn't go great for him in Atlanta, but there's familiarity with the franchise. I heard Big Joe talking about this yesterday. It would still be, Arthur Smith would be his pick. If they end up winning the division here and getting into the playoffs, and then I guess we'll see what they do in the playoffs after that. I wonder how Arthur Smith being named head coach of the Tennessee Titans would be received by the fan base. Because I think on the one hand, Joe, you would look at it and you'd say, well, he's been here before, been here for a long time. He knows Amy. So there's like he knows how the organization works. There's that dynamic of it. I do think there's a portion of Titans fans too that would also not only look at his time in Atlanta and how it didn't go very well. I think, if you really wanted to dig into that, you can excuse it if you wanted to. Like, his quarterbacks were Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder largely. So there is that. But I also think if that's the hire that's made, a lot of Titans fans will say, well, Amy Adams Strunk, she's fired all these people, and now she feels like she's just got to be as safe as possible. So she's going with somebody she knows and Arthur Smith, and that's the wrong way to go about it. I would be really interested to see what the reaction from Titans fans would be if it ended up being Arthur Smith.
Yeah, I'm too. It's a great point. Great question. I first of all, I tend to think a lot of fans will just automatically do what you said. Just think the worst about like Amy's involvement and somehow I almost feel like whatever they do, we're talking about Cam Ward being involved and whatever. I mean, at this point, maybe like don't have Amy say anything or appear to have much involvement in the whole process. Because fans are just going to assume that it's going to be a bad choice. But
we're going to have Cam interview all the coaches. Cam, just let me know what you think at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's like Cam talks to him, but Amy doesn't. It's a new way of running an NFL franchise. But yeah, Arthur Smith is. I don't know what. Like, I think it could work. It's hard to know. I mean, the one thing about Arthur Smith that I think you did see in Atlanta is he does get really sensitive. Yeah. Does that matter? Like, was that a detriment? Was that a factor in their lack of success? Like you said, the quarterback situation was not good, but he like some of the stuff that made him mad of like real basic questions about stuff was like, man, calm down. And now he's coming back here. He already knows Kaharski. I mean, Arthur Smith has been on our show when we've all made fun of Kaharski. Yeah. So, I mean, like he knows the lay of the land, but I was a bit surprised after how he was here as an assistant. And then also just as OC to like how he was publicly as a head coach. I do wonder if that's a little bit of a red flag.
Well, look, I mentioned earlier that McCarthy is probably my choice. And again, I don't love McCarthy. Like, there are flaws with all these guys. But I also, one thing that's going to be interesting here, I am sure, Joe, that of this crop of potential coaches, be that Saleh, Arthur Smith, Matt Nagy, whoever, those type of guys who have been head coaches in the league before and it hasn't gone overly well, I'm sure that at least one of them are going to get to another stop somewhere along the way and they're going to do well, right? Like, the record's going to be good, and there'll be stories written about how they figured it out. Let's say it's Saleh, right? Like, Saleh gets to his next stop and it'll be like, well, he went through the fire with the New York Jets. He's come out stronger on the other side, and it's worked out great. I am sure that's going to happen with one of these guys. But, Joe, there are also guys, and you know this, like, there are guys in the NFL that frankly just aren't cut out to be head coaches, right? That are really good coordinators. We see that all the time in the NFL. And I don't know if that's Saleh. I don't know if that's Nagy. They could all end up being good head coaches. I do think part of the reason why I go back to McCarthy in this conversation is because I know that he's been a good head coach. Am I worried that at 62 years old that maybe the quote unquote, the game has passed him by, or, does some of the in-game stuff that he does, like we've talked about on this show before, like the just debacle of clock management that Mike McCarthy's had in some big-time situations. Does that stuff worry me? Yeah, it does. But the bottom line is, like, he won a lot of games with the Green Bay Packers, and he won a lot of games with the Dallas Cowboys too, just not really when it mattered in the playoffs. And I don't know, like, I don't, if I'm the Titans, want to get stuck with the guy that I hire as head coach, that, you're choosing the one that really is more cut out to be a coordinator, not a head coach in this league.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And that is why, like, there's a safer way to go for sure. But you also, then you go around the league at some of the best coaches. How many of the best coaches in the NFL right now were coaches that teams took a chance on?
Yeah.
And they did not have, I mean, most of the great head coaches, I mean, it's an interesting, and I'm thinking through it now. It's like, how many of the great head coaches, like, were a head coach somewhere? Now, Belichick did fail as a head coach before the Patriots tenure, but, he got the job through being the defensive coordinator of the Giants, Lawrence Taylor, all that stuff. But I mean, a lot of these guys, it's like you were a highly successful coordinator, then you got your head coaching job and you took off from there,
Yeah.
But there's also examples of retreads. Really, that's what anybody is, I guess, that's been hired a second time to be a head coach who have had success. And so it's an interesting, like, I feel like these guys are not probably in a position of taking a huge risky swing, if that's what we consider someone like a Brady or Kubiak, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it behooves them to fully explore that, and hey, maybe have their quarterback interview, and maybe that gives them an edge. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Maybe so. Let's welcome in Tim to the program on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Tim, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, guys. We're talking about Arthur Smith, and I would question whether or not. I mean, he knows, like you said, he knows Amy, he knows how the organization. I would question him wanting to come back if he knows all that. It would make me wonder.
Oh, you want this job? You're fired.
That's a fair point.
I mean, yeah, but he knows how all that's going to be. Some of these other coaches, they know the Titans and they know they don't actually know the inside stuff like Arthur would, and so they're going to just be shocked and surprised when they get here. He comes in knowing that a year or two I'm going to get fired. They're going to have a new general manager next year, and yeah. I would question his knowledge.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate the call. The one thing I would say on that, Joe, is the one thing to keep in mind here. I understand the sentiment. I really do. But Arthur Smith was basically around Amy when things were going pretty well. Like, look, I'm sure Amy was around in, 2014 when he was the assistant tight ends coach and they were horrible. I'm sure he knew her. But when she really took over as the face of the organization, things started to improve, right? Like from 2016 until he was gone at the end of 2020, there was a lot of good that was going on there. So, like, he has not been around for the dumpster fire that's been the last few years here.
Yes, he has not been around for Mad Amy. He's been around for Happy Amy.
Yeah.
So. Arthur, I have one question for you. What the hell are you doing here? The fact that you even want this job means you will not get this job. Thank you.
615-737-1025. More on the Titans coaching search coming up next. Charles Robinson will be with us at 7:30. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. If you're looking for a great spot to pregame on Sunday before the Titans game, stop by John Bon Jovi's and pregame with 102.5 The Game. JBJ's has the best food on Broadway, cold beer, and cocktails, stunning skyline views, including 2 epic rooftops. Pregame show brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Circus Sportsbook, Kentucky. We'll have Charles Robinson coming up here in just about 10 minutes on the program, taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Joe, one texter says, tell me McCarthy's quarterbacks and then give me his playoff record because I don't think the two things match up. I mean, again, yes, Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl. It was a long time ago at this point. And the playoff success really wasn't there in Dallas. Now, that is not just a McCarthy thing. That has been a Dallas thing for a long time at this point. So we'll see what that looks like. Look, again, I don't think any of these guys are perfect. I think a lot of these guys have some flaws. I mean, look, people are all over Robert Saleh around here, and I get it. Robert Saleh's record's bad. Now, you can excuse that all for the Jets if you want to, and maybe it is all because he was with the New York Jets. I have no idea, but his record's not good. I mean, a lot of these guys have flaws. I think McCarthy has demonstrated to be a good head coach. Is McCarthy going to win you a Super Bowl? I don't know. But can we get to the point where they're good again and then we can worry about winning the Super Bowl? And that would probably be my advice here. Let's get to the point where we stabilize this thing, and then we can start worrying about whether or not your coach is good enough to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Like you'd love the problem right now of Mike McCarthy blowing it with a really good team in the playoffs, right? Like, oh, that sounds great. Yeah. And the record thing is fair. I think, again, some of the stuff with Saleh and, like, trying to, like, investigate who is the mole for the media. It's like, it's like if you waste any time on this, you are not going to do your job well. That stuff is concerning. Yeah, but again, you get into record. Let's go to Mike Vrabel. 18 losses in the last 24 here. So for a couple of years, he became a total idiot. He was a coach of the year. He's a great coach. Then he's a total idiot, and now he's a genius again, which, again, kind of gets us back to coaching is very important in the NFL, no question. But also, they're all dependent on, and that sometimes you gotta get out of bad situations so your record doesn't get too bad, so you're not hireable again because you're coaching a team that has no chance to win, which I think definitely was the case with Saleh.
I mean, the same texter says McCarthy's had some Hall of Fame type quarterbacks. What would he do with an average quarterback? I mean, I don't know. Like, what do you think of Dak Prescott? Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. He's certainly not a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's a good quarterback. I mean, look, if you're
very good,
if Cam Ward is average at the end of the day, what does that mean? Is he going to be is he getting a second deal if he's average? I don't know. Look, McCarthy at 62 years old, he has had, the late stages of Brett Favre, the early stages of Aaron Rodgers into the prime, and then Dak Prescott. Those have been his 3 quarterbacks primarily at the NFL level. So I understand that certainly in 2 of those cases, you're talking about 2 of the 10 greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. So believe me, I understand that when it comes into this. But again, I think people look at his Dallas tenure and it ended poorly and they didn't have postseason success. You are talking about 3 years in a row in Dallas where he went 12-5, wasn't like it was just completely terrible in Dallas.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's the postseason thing is fair for sure. And again, you'd like that problem. And there's also plenty of examples. I'm not making this comparison, but there's plenty of examples of coaches who have a reputation. Oh, he'll never get over the hump. He screws up in the postseason. He's clock management is terrible. Andy Reid, and then figures it out. Why did he figure it out? Well, there's one person in particular that I think answers that question. But still, he figured it out. This is interesting. We've had like Jeff Fisher throwing at us. We've had Eddie George. Mike says, for the Titans coach, I don't want anyone who has coached, played, or worked for the organization. So I kind of, but I still wouldn't disqualify Arthur Smith. Like, to me, Arthur Smith is worth looking at here, right? I just don't
Yeah.
I don't put like a ton of value on like he knows, like he knows the organization, or he knows Amy or stuff like that. Like some people overvalue that, but I think there's some, I don't think it's like it shouldn't be a non-starter that you've been here before.
Well,
it's just the whole legendary player thing is usually just a terrible idea.
Well, the bottom line is like if the coaching search goes the way I think that it should, which is Borgonzi being the one ultimately making the decision here, well, then I think you ultimately get back to, who does Borgonzi know around the – that's why it's so easy to make the Nagy reach, right? Because he's very familiar with Matt Nagy. Doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the coach, but like, I do think, who he knows, who he trusts, could play a big factor in this. So, whether that's Nagy, and by the way, just because he's been in Kansas City, I mean, there are some other guys that he may know or think highly of around the league. So it doesn't have to zero in on Nagy just because that's the case. But if Borgonzi's ultimately the one making the decision, then the odds are it's probably going to be somebody he's at least come in contact with or thinks really highly of, one of the two.
Yeah, makes sense. And maybe, I don't know. Cam, do you like Mario Cristobal? Maybe we should look at who he likes. He has worked with. This is an interesting comment that I like. He says, with McCarthy, you get someone who understands the old school coaching mentality, but also can implement his softer style of coaching with these newer players. He knows how to manage the egos. Hell, he had Aaron Rodgers on his team. Yeah, like Mike McCarthy, I think is a good coach. Like that team, that team that your Packers just bombarded. I mean, they went in there and Jordan Love was incredible. They played this fantastic game. The Cowboys got punched in the mouth, and that's a big mark against them.
Yep.
That team could have made a run. Now again, could have made a run. I'm just saying. You also look at teams. Now maybe with the Cowboys it's a little different, but I think when teams get better under a coach with personnel, then I also look at that coach probably has a decent idea of what he wants and has some input that helps, right?
Yeah.
So there's that too. I don't know. Maybe that's not the case with the Cowboys, but yeah, McCarthy. Definitely some people are like way too down on him.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports will be with us coming up next. We'll get into the Titans, all things NFL with him. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Today, between noon and 3, Chase and Big Joe will have your chance to win a $100 Moments Peace Salon and Day Spa gift card and qualify to win a $1,000 Genesis Diamonds gift card as well. It's the 12 days of Christmas here on 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. And we head to our phone line driven by Wilson County and Hyundai.com and say hello to our friend Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. Charles, good morning. How are you?
What's going on, guys? Half an hour early.
Yeah, you're a real trooper. We appreciate it. Real trooper.
Absolutely. This is bright and early for me.
Yeah. That's because you love us. That's what we do. You just love us so much. You come on early. So, Charles, a lot of discussion around here locally over the last 18, 20 hours or so of Cam Ward and what he had to say yesterday about the Titans coaching search. Says he wants to meet all the coaches who get the opportunity to come here, have conversations throughout the whole process. You talked about, the day-to-day of being a head coach in this league and that he's talked with Borgonzi and Brinker about his involvement level that he wants to have. What did you make of those comments, and what do you make of the idea of a very young quarterback in this league being involved in the coaching search for an NFL team?
Youngins nowadays, they think that they're when you grow up in the social media age, you're used to being the center of your own universe. So of course you believe that, hey, yeah, absolutely, I'm going to be in on the interviews and the hiring process. And no, I understand where he's coming from. I heard the comments. I know it kind of created an interesting buzz. I think from a historical standpoint, I would say that what he is looking for, and I guess I would ask him to flesh it out a little bit more. I mean, what exactly is he looking to be sitting at the table and weighing in on, okay, hey, here's what we've come down to, and who gets your endorsement, or does he just want to offer feedback in the interactions that he's had? Because look, historically, some organizations have handled it where it's like the owner and the GM they're like, look, we're going to make the decision ultimately what's right for our team, what's right for our quarterback. And then, even though we might get the two together, we're not going to sit there and ask the quarterback to, basically endorse a candidate. We might pick the quarterback's brain and say, what was your thought process? I've brought up in the past when McVay got hired with the Los Angeles Rams, McVay and Jared Goff got together, and I think it was really important to General Manager Les Snead at that point, team president, the owner, and everybody wanted to see how, Goff interacted with McVay, what McVay's kind of plan was for Goff, and just sort of see the synergy between the two, because Goff had been the number one pick for the franchise, and it was very important to them that this was the guy that they made sure was not left on the scrap heap in a coaching change. So, that was an element of where, you saw it mattering really how the quarterback reacted to the candidate. But in terms of, let's say, and again, I don't want to put words in Cam's mouth, but in terms of a quarterback sort of vetting the coaches and then like lending an endorsement or something of that nature, it's pretty rare. And I think you'd have to find like veterans. Like, I'll give you an example. Like when Jim Caldwell succeeded Tony Dungy in Indianapolis, Peyton Manning was very, very influential in that process. But Peyton Manning, Caldwell had been on the staff. Peyton Manning knew him. They'd spent a lot of time together. So ultimately, when Jim Irsay went to make that decision, of course, Peyton Manning's endorsement really mattered, because Peyton was like, look, I've spent years with this guy. I trust him. We have an element, a working relationship between us. It's natural. It's seamless. And really, I think that played very, very heavily in Caldwell ultimately getting that job in Indianapolis. I think Cam's situation is a little different. He's not established, I don't think he has the line of credit. I can't say this for sure, but I would assume that he does not have the line of credit in that organization that a Peyton Manning had in Indianapolis at the time that Tony Dungy was succeeded at the head coaching position. I'm telling you, I think part of this is you know, excuse me. You talk about Cam. Man, we're doing this again. Second time I need to.
We're trying to kill you, getting you in here at 7:30 in the morning.
I've had the same issues today.
I talk too long. That's the problem. I wonder, you think about this era of quarterbacks. I think you really have to think about this. With the portal existing, and you have guys who, especially guys who make more than one portal move, right? If you're transferring from Incarnate Word to Washington State to Miami, you're pretty heavily factored into where I'm going. You're kind of going through
You're choosing your coach.
Way. You are 100%. You're choosing your coach. You're choosing your destination. And I do wonder if that has an impact nowadays with some of the younger quarterbacks who cut a path that's a little bit different than maybe traditionally what we've seen historically. And so, of course, if you're Cam Ward, you're sitting here thinking, well, geez, I've always played a factor in where I go and, who my head coach is going to be. So naturally, in my mind, I'm going to have, a role here. And it also fits with what we've seen over, with Cam over the course of the season, right? Don't you agree? I mean, he's kind of spoken out in a way where we've even talked about on the show. We're like, we don't hear that a lot from rookie quarterback.
Yeah, fix the damn grass.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the best part of this is probably Cam's like, he hasn't said, I want to make sure he's not ass. At least he hasn't said that. So, I think, again, I think maybe it's just a little different for the individual. I think maybe it's a little different for the era. Again, knowing who's in control of that organization and the individuals that are making the decisions, I would tend to believe that they lean on more historic norms where they're like, sure, like he wants to meet coaches, that's fine. And, if he wants to express an opinion, that's fine. But ultimately they're going to make the decision that they feel is best for the entire organization and not just the quarterback, but obviously the quarterback's going to be, a big part of that. I'm just telling you, I think more and more, like the things that Burrow has said this week that have caused the fear, or at least over the last, over the last week, obviously extending into last week, I think we're seeing an era of players where it's just starting to get a little different, right? You're getting guys that are, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but definitely feel more entitled to share their opinions, their emotion, how they're affected by, their NFL experience and say it out loud. And it causes waves in a way that it hasn't in the past, because I think, for the most part, there's been a little more stoicism expected from players, and occasionally people will come along and affect where they go and how they move around the NFL. And those are always huge stories. John Elway refusing to play for the Baltimore Colts created a story for the rest of his career that we would talk about. Eli Manning refusing to play for the San Diego Chargers created a story for the rest of his career that we would think about. But those are rarities, right? But I think nowadays it's getting a little more common for young guys to kind of speak out. I mean, Caleb, same deal. I mean, Caleb, Seth Wickersham's book, there was a point where Caleb Williams and his dad, everyone wanted to play for like Kevin O'Connell, and you're kind of reading this and you're like, this is going to come out. Like this stuff is like, it's not even in the league yet.
This was said out loud.
Yeah. And we're like, what's going on here? Like, this is definitely unusual. So I think it sticks to the norm a little bit, but I'll ask you guys this. Do you think is it a negative, for Cam Ward to express this, or is it, do you think it's sensible for a player who's chosen number 1 overall to be able to say, yeah, want to talk to the new coaches and express how I feel about that guy as a potential hire?
I don't think it's a negative for him to want that. I mean, I like that he wants to be that involved, it's just right. How realistic is it? I mean, it's great to hear you rail against the younger generation, which is really what you're doing here, which is, I'm totally on board with you, but I do wonder, it's a great point about the portal and everything and sort of player empowerment and all that stuff. Like, I do wonder, Like, is there any way that shifts how things are done in these situations? Or is it just, guys, just still know your role, stay in your lane, period?
I think it, I don't know. I mean, look, as much as we all end up as we get older, I don't want to say who it was because it was funny. I was actually listening to a guy last night who, has been involved with the NFL going back 30 plus years. And he was, 30 to almost 40 years. And he was just kind of railing on the game and how it's changed and, this and that. And I'm like, man, does every generation end up like shouting at the clouds? Like, it's just how it goes. Like, it changes. And I thought when I was listening to him, he was complaining about how he's complaining a lot about quarterbacks, we don't do the quarterbacks don't do this, that, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what, man, I'm pretty sure your era quarterbacks, those that preceded you complained about how you were soft and how you didn't. And I'm just like, this is just how the league goes. We change. It just changes. It changes. Players change and the league changes with it. Attitudes change. How the game is played changes. Rules change. And every next era of people are complaining that the last era is softer than the current one, or wants more of this, or is paid more, or, and I'm like, I don't know. This just kind of feels like we're all on the same evolutionary chart, and the Homo sapien who's a little more upright than the one before it is complaining about the one before it or the one after it. Like, this is just how human history goes. So I'll put it to you this way: if I'm a Titans fan and Cam Ward gets asked that question, I'd be far more alarmed if he was just completely disconnected about it.
Yeah,
that would
agree.
bother me. Yeah, that would bother me. If he was just like, whatever decision they make, I'll just roll with it. I'd be kind of like, I don't know if I want that.
That's a fair point. Fair point. So, Charles, on the Tua front, Tua is benched in Miami. It looks like they're going to go with Quinn Ewers, which apparently Zach Wilson, not a huge fan of, but that's a different story for a different day. What do you make of that move? What does this mean for Tua? What does it mean for Mike McDaniel down there in Miami?
Yeah, I don't want to get in the kitchen of other like analysts and national writers who are commenting on this, but I think the one thing I'm a little surprised at is just this overwhelming assumption that, it's over. It's just over. Because in my mind, here's something you need to think about. They're paying Tua no matter what, right? And you're talking about, it's like a $99 million dead cap charge. Go ahead and split it up post-June however you want. I mean, it's just a god-awful, it's a burger, man. It is the worst burger you ever want to eat. And what if Quinn Ewers is terrible? Okay, so here's my sort of thesis when I look at this. If Quinn Ewers goes out there, and I don't, all this stuff about, he's looked really good in practice, and they thought he was really developed and come along. Great, cool. I've heard that about quarterbacks for years and years and years, and I watch them go on the league, go on the field, and they pee down their leg, and then everything changes. And I'm not saying that Quinn Ewers is going to do that, but if Quinn Ewers is objectively bad, if he looks no better than Tua, then you sit there and you stare at the Miami Dolphins. You go, okay, so now you're going to get rid of Tua. That's going to cost you a $99 million plus dead cap charge. Now you have a scenario where Quinn Ewers might not be your guy. You trotted him out there and you didn't see anything, and that scares you. You skipped over Zach Wilson, so he's not the guy. So who's your answer? So now you need to get rid of Tua and then find another quarterback. Clearly it's going to have to be a cheap quarterback, so you would think a rookie, right? You don't even have a general manager right now. So who's the rookie you love? Who's making is Stephen Ross going, I see a quarterback in the draft who we're taking. Well, you don't know exactly where you're picking. You don't know what quarterbacks are all going to be in the draft. Dante Moore, he hasn't declared yet. I mean, there's what quarterbacks are you staring at where you're like, we've got our option on the table. And the thing that bothers me about this is the two most referred to instances of this happening, where you take this massive dead cap charge and teams moving on, by other analysts and individuals out there that are trying to, kind of look at this and put this into a box. They keep bringing up Denver and they keep bringing up Green Bay. And those, Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, Denver and Russell Wilson. Well, Russell Wilson, it didn't happen until Sean Payton had been brought in and had a year to measure him. And the cap charge was drawn down for 1 year, right? And Sean Payton said, I got the quarterback. I know who I want. I want Bo Nix. We're going to get Bo Nix. That's the replacement. That's the plan. We're good. Like, we're set. Something Sean Payton knew by, I think he knew late in that season, although it didn't really fully come together until the offseason. But Sean knew that he had a quarterback to replace him. In Green Bay, the front office's inclination, Brian Gutekunst wanted to get to Jordan Love. He wanted Jordan Love to get his opportunity. He'd been in the organization for a couple of years. So when they took the dead cap charge they did with Aaron, they had the player in-house. Who is it for Miami? Someone asked me that question because I don't have it. I don't have that answer. I have not heard who it is. So we're making this presumption that, yep, Miami's going to go ahead and take the $99 million hit and roll. It's so bad now. They're just going to say, well, whatever. If yours doesn't work, then, Zach Wilson, we're skipping over and we'll figure it out in offseason. And we're going to pay more money to bring in some, bridge quarterback, or we're going to draft a rookie. That's an interesting theory. I just don't know the general manager who's steering that ship right now because they don't have a general manager. And I don't know Stephen Ross to be that kind of guy to have made those personnel decisions. So it's interesting to me right now. I tend to believe it's likely that Tua's off that roster. I just don't understand this idea that there's just no way whatsoever that he doesn't get another chance. Because, by the way, everybody can say Mike McDaniel's safe. We'll see. It's still a long time to the end of the season. It is a long time to the end of the season, and I've seen owners change their minds in a matter of days on head coaches. I've seen guys go for exit interviews and owners go, maybe, this guy doesn't want to change his staff. We need to find another head coach. I think there's been experience in Tennessee with that before. So, yeah. So let's just wait and see how this all plays out. It's not 100%. I think that Tua's out.
So you mentioned this other quarterback earlier. So let's go to Burrow. Like, where the heck is that thing headed?
Yeah, that's
deep sigh.
Yeah, I think it's complicated because I think Burrow's complicated in the way that he relates, how he's feeling and his thoughts. Like you go back to the Netflix quarterback series, and to me, I remember when I watched that series, I was like, far and away, the star of the series is Burrow, because I'm like, he's just different. He was very different. He was very open about his personality. He was very open about the people that were in the orbit of his world in terms of, here's my fashion stylist. And I remember thinking to myself, wouldn't see a lot of guys in the league be like, let me introduce you to my fashion stylist, and then you get to watch me pick out a bag for game day. And, wanting to learn to play the piano and just kind of talking about how, his thought process developed as a player and a person. And so you're like, wow, this is a guy he's really willing to put some interesting personal stuff out there, but then also doesn't want you to know what's going on in his dating life. And it's like he definitely segments certain parts of what his personality, what it is. But I do think he has illustrated, including, his time with the Bengals, sometimes he'll say things where he's like, yeah, I'm a human being and I'm introspective and I think about things, and it gets processed as, oh my God, he's thinking about things. That's a bad sign. So when he gets up there and he says, yeah, I think about a lot of things, it's like, do you think about not playing football? Well, yeah, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but yeah, I think about a lot of things. Do you think about not, being on the Bengals? Yeah. Well, you have a lot of thoughts. I think there is an element there of saying, hey, I'm a person. Of course, don't you ever think of not being in your job? Does it mean you'll quit your job? Guys, I think of not being in my job all the time. It doesn't mean I'm quitting. Like, it doesn't mean like I'm, but of course, like everybody, has thoughts of like, well, what if I would have done this? Or, I have a friend who went and did that. And, like Joe, you and I know Mark Snyder. Mark Snyder was a longtime journalist. We kind of came up with him, became a high school principal. And I'm like, what is that like? Like what an interesting, like, change for someone in our industry. Well, if I say that out loud, no one's sitting there thinking like Charles wants to become a high school principal. Like, he wants to, like.
He'd be really good, by the way.
And yet, that's yeah, absolutely. Everybody's going to the office. Listen, so I think there's an element of it where he is trying to speak honestly about just being a human being, and then we're like reading into it. But that's also what we do, and I think he needs to understand too, particularly when he gets asked about Zach Taylor. If you're open-ended about, if there's not like a clear endorsement of like, hey, I'm happy with how things are functioning, of course there's going to be a question about your happiness. Is it the head coach? What needs to change? And then just the general white knuckling of every Bengals fan. I don't want to say every, but like as a generalization, Bengals fans are scared that this is like the best thing they've had going in a really long time. And you don't want that best thing to go, have any answer, but I'm happy here. I want to continue here. This is my place. And for Burrows, Burrow did say, I want to play football for a long time. It's not about my, love for the game. He's kind of tried to contextualize it. I think there's some more stuff going on there. And then he even said it himself. He's like, there's a lot going on. It's a big statement. You can fit a lot into that statement. And, my read on it is that his life, there's just been a lot of things that there's something else he's juggling beyond football that's playing into this. Remember his house was robbed. Stories got written about, the who he might have been dating at that time, because it kind of came out in some of the reporting about who made the call about the house being robbed. He really got upset about that. That really, really bothered him. He felt like the media like stepped into his personal life in a way that he was not happy with. And, so he's kind of a complicated player. When I watch him, I'm like, man, I just hope we're not seeing like early stages of Aaron Rodgers. This is like, 10 years from now, it's spun into, we're at this point of the season and people are still like, how come we don't know who Aaron Rodgers is married to? Like, what is he doing in the off season? Like, we're asking things where I'm like, where are we with this guy at this point? Like, Burrow's an interesting guy, but for that talent level, I understand why people are panicking a little bit. Man, you think people are panicking about Cam Ward wanting to be involved in a coaching search? give Titans fans a Joe Burrow and then have them go, yeah, of course I think about that. Cam is not playing football anymore.
Yeah. All right,
they'd take it for a few years of Joe Burrow, but
they would. All right, Charles, rapid fire here. Are my beloved Packers totally screwed with Parsons out? And how did the Chiefs rebound in the offseason with Mahomes dealing with the ACL?
I don't think the Packers are screwed. I think, obviously it becomes more difficult, but again, it's an NFC where every single team's got issues. So I think that's good for them. But I think that dramatically changes. Remember losing Wyatt on the offensive or defensive line, and Parsons is a heck of a 1-2 punch. They're not as good a team as they were when both those guys were on the field together. But I still think this is going to come down to momentum, who he took, and it's Love. Like, to me, if Love plays at his top level, I think Packers, have a chance to beat anybody in the NFC just because of how the NFC is set up right now. In terms of the Chiefs, I think this is the watershed off season. They're going to, I think Kelsey's going to retire ultimately. And then I think they're going to have to sit there and stare at, what can we do to bring some dynamic players back to the table? What are we doing at the offensive coordinator spot? Because it feels like we've gotten a little soft since Eric Bieniemy's gone out the door. I would expect them to address running back in a try to find something more dynamic than what they've had. Try to, figure out from the pass catching standpoint, can they find a more explosive player, get some consistency on the offensive line? There's defensive issues too, but I think obviously they're very concerned about now we can't have Patrick Mahomes ever leading the team in rushing again, because now he's going to have a brace on a surgically repaired left knee. And that is not the guy we want running around. I mean, look, fine if you want to navigate to avoid the rush, but you're not getting out there and running the way that you have been, because we can't ever sacrifice this kind of thing. It's dramatically going to have to change how they structure the pieces around him. So it's going to be a very, very important offseason for them. And I think it's the intersection of, where does the dynasty go? Like, is this, I wrote about it and I was kind of like, is this the intermission, or is this like the end? And now we're going to go into the 10 years of winter that the Patriots did, where they didn't get to a Super Bowl with Brady on the roster.
Going to be very interesting to see. We get Gardner Minshew in our fine city this weekend, so we'll see how that goes. Charles, great stuff as always. Really appreciate you being flexible for us this morning, and we will talk to you next week, my friend. Actually, we won't.
Absolutely,
next week is Christmas.
Have a good weekend.
Now.
All right, have a good Christmas as well.
Yep, same to you. Same to you.
You too, buddy.
We will react to what Charles had to say. A lot of stuff on that, on the Titans front, on the NFL front at large. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Appreciate Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports for being with us in the last couple of segments, normally at 8 o'clock on Thursdays. So if you're tuning in, a little bit of a change this week, 7:30 for Charles. We will have Derek McKenzie, Predators assistant coach, coming up at 8:30, and we will get into all things Nashville Predators with him. So looking forward to that. If you missed the interview with Charles, check it out a little bit later on our podcast, wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, GameNashville.com, and we will have that interview up there for you. A couple things on the Charles front that we talked about, Joe. Interesting to get his perspective on the Cam Ward part of this. He was talking about how the heavy involvement from a quarterback with a head coaching search doesn't really happen all that much in the NFL, and that's with young guys, that's with veterans. Like, it just has not really been a thing. A point that he made that I had not really thought about, the transfer portal thing is interesting. Of like, well, these quarterbacks in college football now, they can transfer, and when they're doing that, I mean, they're at times, Joe, like, they're essentially like interviewing people, right? It's like, so what are you going to do for me? Like, why is your program the place that I need to come? And we all know it's not the same thing in the NFL, but it is interesting. Like, is Cam Ward and his approach here, is this going to be something that the younger generation of quarterbacks want a little bit more say in when it comes to the coaches who are being hired and their involvement in those hiring processes?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. Obviously, players, for forever they've gone to their first program is like that, right? Like their first program that they choose out of high school that used to be that's where you're just going to go to college is essentially like that. But yeah, the more movement, it is a little bit more like, okay, I'm in charge and I am dictating, what I want to be, and I'm not stuck anymore at a program that I just didn't like, or I didn't get along with the coach, I didn't maximize, whatever. I have freedom. I just go here. And yes, of course, there's money involved in people, a higher offer, but people who, approach it intelligently, which I still think is more than not, understand that there's going to be money. You're going to get, the money's going to be mostly the same at most places, but what's the place that is best for you for a variety of reasons? So yeah, you're interviewing people. So there's that. So does that end up changing like how front offices look at it? I have no idea. It was interesting too, hearing about like Goff and McVay, like that to me, that's smart, right? Like, get this hot shot offensive young guy, trying to see if he can be a head coach, and let's see how he interacts with the quarterback. And of course, a few years later, then the coach is like, this quarterback's not good enough. Let's go get Matthew Stafford. But I think that's a good example, and that's about what it should be to me, right? You certainly, I think any interaction and stuff like that, I think that's a good thing, and a conversation. And I think you would think that Cam Ward would at least be happy with that kind of involvement, even if he's not actually sitting in the room as they like break down candidates and decide who the 2 or 3 finals are going to be or whatever.
Let's head to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Daryl in Hendersonville to the program. Daryl, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, gentlemen. Well, I don't give a flying what Cam Ward thinks about the new coach. He's a kid. What is he, 23 years old? What company would ask the 23-year-old rookie who's shown some talent, hey, who do you think the CEO should be? Who in the hell cares?
What company takes that young person and makes him the highest paid player in the entire company, though? See, that's the problem with your comparison. You are basing your entire organization around that person. That's not like just some young guy in a company, right?
Yeah, I get that, Joe. You're right. And that's the problem with the league is you're putting all this hope, faith, and trust in a kid who hasn't shown anything. So I understand what you're saying, but I don't care what Cam Ward thinks about who the new coach should be.
Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate the call. I mean, look, Daryl's not alone in that thought. We've been all over the place today on the opinions on this. Again, we talked about it to begin the show. What does involvement mean? The way he's describing it, he talked about wanting to be involved in the whole thing and meeting everybody who's interviewing for the job. Well, first off, I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, how many people are the Titans interviewing, right? There's your first question. And then, I would assume at some point there's a cut down. You move on to the next point of your process, and then you start bringing people into your building. Like there's a whole, laundry list of things that are going to happen here as the Titans go through this process here. But involvement, what does that mean? Because I have no problem with Cam Ward, wanting to meet coaches as they come in the building for interviews. I have no problem with Cam Ward wanting to go over some of his thoughts offensively with what he's really good at, scheme, all those things. But I would hope that he would understand, and I hope the Titans would make this clear that, we will listen to what you have to say, and we can offer your thoughts on, your interactions with the coach, but we're going to be the one making the decision, right? Like Borgonzi needs to be the one making the decision, hiring the coach, and I said it earlier in the show, you can get input for Cam Ward, but what does input really mean? Borgonzi knows, or at least should know, the strengths and weaknesses of Cam Ward. He knows, I'm sure that he and Cam Ward have had conversations about what he wants to do offensively, the type of offense he wants to run, the type of concepts that he's comfortable with in the NFL. So, Borgonzi should know these things. So then I think at that point, Joe, it's about trusting Borgonzi to make the right hire at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, but I do disagree with I don't give a crap what he thinks. Why not? Why not take input? And it may be a situation where he's like, man, I really like this guy. I really love this guy because of ABC. Or, have you guys considered I really don't like this guy because of ABC. I don't see to me, whatever the input would be, like you said, what's the involvement? How do you get to the input? I don't know, but I'm not just dismissing it out of hand. Shut up, kid. You sit there and we'll hire the coach. I mean, again, it's football, so they're playing a child's game, and so the most important person in a football organization is the quarterback, right? So he may not work out, but these guys. Someone earlier texted Cam just wants to do this so that he can get someone he knows won't want to move on to another quarterback. And it's believe me, this front office, their employment is tied to Cam Ward working out. They are not going to hire a coach who isn't enthusiastic about Cam Ward as a quarterback.
Oh, and by the way, if they were seriously considering drafting another quarterback, then they wouldn't be giving Cam Ward a chance to sit here and interview these guys or talk with these guys. If you're Borgonzi, and you're even giving any sort of consideration whatsoever, which, by the way, I don't think he is, but play that out. Say he is giving consideration to driving or to drafting another quarterback here. Well, then why in the world do you care what Cam Ward has to say about the coach? You don't at that point.
Yeah. Right. So, I don't just dismiss and you want to be, again, you want to be I'm with Charles. Charles said what I said earlier. I would much rather a quarterback overstep and want to be so involved and be like, okay, well, you can't do all that, than just be indifferent and I'm just going to work with my QB coach in the offseason. You guys let me know what's up. I would prefer someone who's trying to do too much. And, to deal with this and figure out the parameters or everything. Again, I think the Titans probably would like Cam, okay, talk to Caleb Williams and other quarterbacks around the league and these processes, right? There are boundaries, there are limitations on this. If you can find someone who was in on all the meetings, then you let us know, but I don't think you're going to find that.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll take more of your thoughts on the Cam Ward front and the Titans head coach. We'll have Derek McKenzie coming up at 8:30 here on the program. All that ahead of Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. DVD with Willie Dawning, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan will be broadcasting live at the all-new Circus Sportsbook Kentucky in the Mint Gaming Hall this Monday prior to the Monday Night Football game. Monday night's matchup, the 49ers taking on the Colts. A little bit more Phillip Rivers action for everybody. 94.9 The Fan, your home for Vanderbilt women's basketball. Tonight, Commodores taking on Albany at Memorial Gym, 6:30. Pregame beginning at 6:15 here as well. Derek McKenzie, Predators assistant coach, will be with us here at 8:30. Preds fall last night to the Carolina Hurricanes. We will get into that and all things Predators with him coming up here in just about 12 minutes. A lot of different thoughts on the Cam Ward front. Joe, it is kind of amazing, the discourse here. Like, there are some Titans fans that think that this is the dumbest conversation from the standpoint of why wouldn't you give Cam Ward input here? And there are some other Titans fans that are like, well, this is stupid. Cam Ward hasn't done anything to warrant conversation or any sort of input at all on the head coach. It's like it's split down the middle. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is. And really the only opinions that I really am just 100% out on is just the idea of just shut up, kid, and learn how to, complete a pass like you have. I think that's silly. I think there's also a limit the other way. But so here's Street B Killin on YouTube chat. I said something like this earlier, but let me read this. He says, I'm a director and I'm hiring a manager under me. I absolutely care about the opinion of the people that will report to that new manager. Your boss has a bigger impact on your health than your doctor. And again, when we try to make these corporate comparisons, just like the caller, it's not perfect. It's just, it's not apples to apples. But I said that earlier. It's like, I want Cam Ward to have an idea of what's going on and interact with some of the people that we maybe once we get it to a smaller group or something, right? Like, and if you get down to and like from their perspective, maybe it's like, whatever, there's pluses, minuses across the board, but that's like your question is, okay, if it's that close, is like could Cam Ward's feeling / input be a tiebreaker? I don't see why there's anything wrong with that.
Well, I definitely don't need it to be in the tiebreaker. Like, I need the general manager to make a decision on hiring a coach. That's what I need.
Okay. Well, again, if they go through all these things and like I said, it's just that close and it's just splitting hairs, why would his input not have any value? Why could that not be considered?
Well, it could be considered, but I need the general manager of the football team to have enough conviction to hire a head coach. That's what I need. And if he can't do that, then they got a big problem.
Okay. I get you. Yeah, they're going to interview people. They're going to talk to other people. They're going to talk to people who worked with this guy or that guy. They're probably going to talk to quarterbacks who worked with this guy or that guy because again, their entire employment is tied to Cam Ward working out. So what you can hire a coach, and if the coach could be a good hire, good job, GM. Oh, by the way, the quarterback you drafted sucks. You're fired, right? So I think when your entire existence in a franchise is tied to a person, and I think that person has a little bit more voice than other people in the certainly other people in the locker room.
Well, a quarterback. The quarterback is going to have more of a voice than other people in the locker room. I guess what I'm saying is, I don't need like Cam Ward being a tiebreaker in your decision to hire the head coach. Like, if that's what it gets to, that's not good.
Oh, okay, so let's just say there's all these different factors, and Cam is huge. He is a big proponent of one guy, and he's down on the other guy, and you can't tell the difference. Does that information get processed and used or no?
What does Cam Ward know about these head coaching candidates, Joe? He hasn't worked with any of them.
What?
So why? What does Cam Ward know about this?
Well, he's having a conversation about football with them. Again, this is the entire playing the game of football. Now, it hinges on, like you said earlier, on Cam, or other people have said, like him getting better with his accuracy, all the mechanics. But yeah, I think that Cam Ward knows football and can talk to a coach and can have some idea of whether it would work out or not. I don't see why that's a crazy thought.
Cam Ward, and again, we're talking about coaches here. We would assume, based on some of the things that they've said, like, it feels like coaches who have been head coaches before in the league are going to be of pretty high importance here. Talking about how they're trying to change the culture and all those things. I would assume Borgonzi pretty familiar with Matt Nagy there. I would assume that, that he's talked to people, and they've had months to do this at this point. He's talked to people about Robert Saleh behind the scenes or whoever it is that they end up being interested in here. Like, I guess what I'm saying is, like, Cam Ward, I'm sure he's going to talk through football schemes and ideas and concepts with all these guys. Like, I don't think it's going to be like so dramatically different between all these guys where it's just like, well, Cam says that Robert Saleh can't tie his shoes together offensively, so we're going to go with the other guy.
Yeah, no. I mean, you're not anything Cam says isn't going to completely like undercut all of your work and interviewing and research. But again, I'm just saying it's information that I would use. It's information that I would take into account in some degree. Hard to quantify. Like, no, LD's like, has anyone said he'd be a tiebreaker? No. And again, I'm just saying, like, in this hypothetical scenario, could his information end up mattering, end up being something like, okay, but Cam does feel really strongly. Again, if it's like we feel this way, he feels totally the other way. No, I'm not saying you're going to change your opinion. Just saying if you're so close and you're like, what is, how do we break the tie? So I understand, the idea that it's a tiebreaker would anger people, but I would use his input. I would. Now, we were also, one of my favorite things we're getting here is Brian and others have said, I hope they ask for Will Levis thoughts because he's going to beat out Cam next year. So there you go.
Maybe we're missing the
let's
whole thing here. Maybe that's what it is.
Throw that into the hopper.
Get Levis, Ward, Brandon Allen all in the room together. Let's toss some ideas around here, guys. What do you think?
So Dennis says, if you have two good candidates in the QB who your job is hitched to, says he likes one of them, and he says there's no chemistry with the other, you take the one he likes. And again, now unless Dennis, like it's a pretty hard lean to the other one, and it's like, well, there is more. It's not just Cam. Can he coexist with the guy? Is it that dramatic? If it's not
Cam,
that
like Brian
dramatic,
Callahan too. So again, there's a huge limitation on the opinion, the stock that I'm putting in what Cam Ward thinks.
I do wonder, like, would Ward go to Berserker and just be like, "No, I don't like this guy. No dice."
It sounds like
I think he would. Like, look, the one thing I'll say about Cam,
no, don't
which
hire
is,
him.
Like, I don't know that he would come out and say don't hire him. But the one thing I will say about Cam that I like to a certain degree is, I don't think he's afraid to say what he thinks, which I do think is important to have in your quarterback.
So I've got someone who's more on your boat texting me who's like, basically like, what about the front end? Ask Cam, ask Simmons what of things they think the team needs, right?
Yeah.
Use that information as opposed to, okay, what about this guy? What about that guy? I don't know. I mean, I think I'm not saying it's negligible to not have them interact, but I don't see what the problem is. Again, Cam needs to just know, like, Cam out stuff like Peyton Manning and Caldwell, but that's so different. He was a star. Caldwell was in the building. It's so different. So as long as he understands the limitation, I don't see what's wrong with hearing what he says, seeing them interact again, like we talked about with McVay and Goff, and considering it to whatever extent you want to consider it.
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll be joined by Derek McKenzie coming up here in just a few minutes. We got the best and worst things in sports a little bit later in the program as well. All that ahead. The Game Nashville Sports Network, your home for college football bowl games and the college football playoff, presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment. Tonight on Sports Talk 830, it's Missouri State taking on Arkansas State, Butch Jones, in the Xbox Bowl, which is right up Butch Jones's alley at 8 o'clock. For a list of games carried on the Game Nashville Sports Network, visit thegamenashville.com/bowl games. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. Preds in action last night, taking on a very good Carolina Hurricanes team. They fall 4-1. Help us talk more about all things Nashville Predators. We head to our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in Predators assistant coach Derek McKenzie to the program. Derek, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, guys. How you doing?
Doing awesome, man. Now, how's keeping up with the schedule this year so far? It feels like you guys are playing about every 36 hours around here.
Yeah, you know what? Obviously, going overseas and playing those games and having a little bit of time to recover kind of compresses and condenses our schedule a little bit. I thought we've done a pretty good job, though, managing our energy and trying to limit, how much time the guys are on the ice. And for the most part, I thought energy hasn't been an issue for our team.
So last night, obviously, Carolina, we know what they do, and Forsberg was talking about this after the game, how aggressive they are on the forecheck, and he said last night that they shoot pucks from literally everywhere, and that's the way that they play. So most of the time when Carolina is playing in the game, they're gonna win the shot counter. I know you guys were not happy with the first period last night. You put together a nice comeback attempt in the third period there, but overall, what did you make of last night's game, and what do you make of kind of the way you guys have been playing on the whole for the last 10 games or so?
Well, I mean, for the most part, I've liked our game. I thought, especially up until yesterday, I think, we've addressed our start a little bit. And obviously when we can find a way to get that lead, like most teams, it's a lot easier, playing ahead than it is chasing it. Again, I thought our energy has been pretty good. We've moved some things around, incorporated some guys. Obviously, Smith back in the lineup adds a little bit of energy. But, yeah, I mean, Carolina is where they are for a reason. They're a skating team. I mean, to allude to the shot clock that you're referring to, yeah, they sling a lot of pucks, which, it is a philosophy that sometimes, and obviously for them, works out. I mean, we tend to want to hold on to the puck a little bit more and try to, that's why our OZP time is as high as it is in the league, trying to generate some stuff by, beating guys in man-on-man situations and things like that. Certainly they were ready to start. They got that first one that's been tough on us all season long, and we just weren't able to recover after that.
So I feel like, we certainly every year, maybe multiple times a year, Derek, we ask somebody this in the organization. Okay, how do you know when Philip Forsberg is on a heater, so to speak? And obviously he's always a dangerous, productive player, but is that what we're looking at right now?
Well, we certainly all hope so. I mean, no, quite honestly, Phil's a star in the league for a reason. You talk about being a pro, it's all about consistency. He's proven that over the years. I mean, yes, at times he can get red hot and be a difference maker for us. That's kind of been the case as of late. But you know what? Again, I think what's important about Phil is when he's going, he kind of drags a lot of the other guys into the fight. And, he's got a big influence on our team. So I think if you look at our record as of late, as we're trying to chip away and find ways to win 2 of 3 and, kind of stay in the fight in the standings. I mean, I think that's what's probably, a little bit frustrating about last night is you keep creeping back into the conversation and then you have a little bit of a setback. But again, when you're looking for positives in that game, there's one thing you could say about these guys over the last few years is they never give up. And I thought, like Phil alluded to after the game, they didn't like the way they started the game, but found ways to, claw back into it. Unfortunately, coming into the third period, giving up that second one really hurt us as well.
So, Derek, Brunette has talked about Evangelista specifically and how important skating is with his game, how well he's skating right now, and you're seeing the results of that out there with the production that he's had. So I guess what do you make of the way that he's kind of approached this season? Obviously wasn't in camp and maybe took him a few games to catch up to the rest of the team, but he has and seems to be playing probably the best hockey he's played in his career for you guys right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think, we've always felt like Luke's a guy that sees the game, competitive, been able to get results at every level. As a coach, you're just, some of the things you can't rush. I think just him maturing physically has always been, one of those things where like once he gets over that hump and finds his legs and a little bit of strength, all these plays are probably going to be completed. I felt like he put the work in the summer. It's hard, he came in, I thought he injected some energy and then it was kind of like trying to catch a moving train for a little bit. So there was a little bit of that 10 game, getting himself up to speed, knowing that he missed training camp, in saying that, I agree with you 100%. He's completely up to speed. He's skating as well. He's competing as well, but it's the details in his game, all the little stick battles, working back, It's one thing to be up there playing with O'Reilly and offensive zone starts, but now when you're getting the defensive zone starts, we've always talked with Luke, right? You want to be a guy that's on the ice, up or down a goal when it's late in a game, and I think he's evolving into that kind of player.
What are you seeing, Derek, from Fedor Svechkov? Obviously, tough start, but it seems like he's kind of hanging in there and battling. What are you seeing from him right now?
Yeah, well, a little bit different, with Svech being a centerman, right? So now you're asked to do a lot more as far as matchups and D-zone face-offs, and kind of having to do some things on the road at both ends of the ice. I mean, he's certainly an exciting player. I think probably a couple years behind Luke, just naturally in his transition into the NHL. I thought he's been quietly really good. I mean, he shows bursts even last night in the third period, just protecting the puck and holding on to it. I don't think it's translated the way he's wanted it to, but again, that's a good sign. He's a competitive kid. He understands where he's at. He understands that he has to get stronger in some areas. But at the end of the day, if he continues to trend the right way, that's a huge piece for this organization. Having a kid like him at his age, at his size, with his ability down the middle, he's got a great attitude. He's been a professional this whole time, and he wants to get better every day. So those are all positive signs.
So, Derek, as a coach, Forsberg was talking, last night after the game about how maybe at points in the game the forwards should have done a better job of coming back and maybe helping the defensemen on the break out there. Obviously there's value in that. You want to be able to stretch the ice when you can too. So as a coach, how do you try to strike that balance of making sure that there are, places to go with the puck on the breakout while also trying to see if you can, stretch the ice when you can?
Yeah, well, that's the game, right? Trying to find ways, first of all, to slow down a team like that in a neutral zone. So when your D go back for the puck, they have that extra second to make a play, to move their feet. Normally, if you can go back and get headed north just a little bit, things tend to open up for us. That's what makes Carolina so good. I mean, the bare bones of their system is they have some guys that are very quick, very tenacious on the forecheck. We know that. You add that ingredient in of their D pinching down, knowing that those fast players can kind of track back in case pucks don't get kept in. You've got a pretty good system there. And saying that for us, there's nights for them where, things don't go as well, or we're able to slow them down. You get pucks, on the glass and on the window, and then you have our guys in predictable situations. You start to break them down. You start to get odd man rushes. You start to spend a lot more time in their zone. Their system is a very simple, like kind of punt and hunt system where pucks are out, pucks are in. So again, when you can kind of wear them down in a game, it's difficult. They show up every night. They have a certain style they want to play. If you can kind of get through that, and I thought we did, at 1-0, we started to take back the game. We started to have that possession time. There's, like I said, a lot of times where they just make the safe play to get it out and get it in. That puck possession time starts to add up for your team. Eventually you have the puck enough, you get dangerous, you get some opportunities. So, Ryan O'Reilly had one in the second. We had a few waves there where if it goes 1-1, I think it's a potentially different game. But ultimately, early on in the game, I thought, to your point, we spent too much time throwing pucks or turning pucks over when we did get it back. And that puck at such a premium in a game like that with no time and no space just wasn't enough for us.
Derek, last thing for you. I mean, obviously a couple of big games coming up this weekend. You mentioned, the last 10 games or so, you guys are playing better. And, we've talked with Brunette about that too. So as a coaching staff, as you guys are trying to get back into the race here, what's your message with your guys heading into the weekend? And do you feel like you guys, last night notwithstanding, are starting to build some of that consistency in your game that you've been looking for?
Well, yeah, I think we've talked about it quite a bit, right? That, this team's been through a lot. It's easy for it to get away from you. I thought the guys have done a really good job of not looking too far ahead. We've talked about, 2 of 3 in a week, chipping away at our schedule, just controlling what we can control. And I thought for the most part, we've done a pretty good job of that. I think the guys' attitude, every day coming to the rink has been they just want to get better. It seems that the more we compete and practice, the more they dig in, the more they want those kinds of things. So those are all positive things. And saying that, that's how difficult the league is. You feel our momentum get going, and then there's just a lot of good teams in this league. And last night was a case where, you get through that one, you're a game from 500, you're feeling great. And they come in and kind of stick to their game plan. And now we have to find that kind of mental fortitude to reset because as difficult as this league is, you've got two teams coming in hungry, needing points in the Eastern Conference. We've got to take advantage of being at home. We got to be some homers and take care of business before Christmas. But again, I think just sticking to the process, we are growing. You can feel it in the room. Is it going to be perfect every night? No. But as long as we keep getting the effort from these guys, it's been fun to be a part of the process.
Well, Derek, thanks as always for your time, man. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning, and we will see you this weekend at the rink.
Thanks for having me. Merry Christmas, guys.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas
Merry
to
Christmas.
you and your family as well. Derek McKenzie, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode, Predators assistant coach. Preds have the Maple Leafs coming in on Saturday, the New York Rangers on Sunday. So some of the big market teams coming up this weekend. And as Derek McKenzie said there, all these teams need the points. Toronto needs them. The Rangers need them. Predators need them. So we will see how the Predators respond to that coming up this weekend. We will have the best and worst things in sports coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
The best and worst of the sports week. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
On ESPN.
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is the worst.
You look like you're feeling sorry for yourself.
He's one of one. He is him.
This is a Coke bottle. It's not a crystal ball.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Okay, let's go. It is time for the best and worst things in sports. Here on Robby and Rexrode, we'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe Rexrode, kick us off with your best and worst things in the world of sports.
Okay. Well, I love these combo ones. So my best in sports is that, Vanderbilt football had arguably its greatest player ever get to New York in the Heisman ceremony, finish second, by far the best. I mean, the only finalist in Vanderbilt history, and finish second in the Heisman voting. Great ceremony, great job of telling his story and everybody's story there of the four players. Great acceptance speech from Fernando Mendoza. That's my best in sports. My worst in sports is everything that's happened since then, and definitely includes Pavia. The post, the F all the voters was a bad decision. I don't really care too much that somebody got 10 seconds of him dancing in a club with an F Indiana sign. Are we blaming Julian, saying who knows? Whatever. That one's overblown. So bad decision by Pavia. Deserves some criticism. Now we've gotten to the point I can't look on X anymore, and I should probably just stop anyway without seeing like Reese Davis, I regret voting for him and all this stuff. And it's like, guys, can we calm down now? We've gone way the other way. I understand Vols fans he's turning him into Charles Manson, and they would never want such a player to play for Tennessee football. I get that. That's how college football fans are, especially in a rivalry. But like, it's gotten a little bit out of hand with like Pavia's character. I mean, I'm hearing like the Heisman people are actually like want to tell people like he was great, he was amazing all week. It's like people are starting to feel bad for him now. It's like, let's all calm down. Bad decision. He sent out an apology. The fact that we're still going off about this is my worst in sports.
Vandy Joe, Ian, your best and worst things in the world of sports.
I got a couple of good ones. The playoff, of course, getting underway this weekend. That's a good one. And then how about tonight's Thursday night football?
Pretty good one.
Is this the best Thursday night football matchup ever in the history of Thursday night football matchup? Other than, of course, like Thanksgiving.
You remember that Rams-Chiefs 54-51 game from about 7 years ago?
That was good.
But yeah, this is good.
No, I don't remember that one. But I'll take, I'm sure that one. Yeah, I guess these guys are DVOA, super high in the fancy stats. Seattle, Rams, should be fun tonight. So I'll put that as the best this week. Worst, all this talk about the NBA Cup. Do not care. People are like, oh, the Knicks are going to put up a banner about the NBA Cup. Oh, they won the NBA Cup. Like, a couple of things. Do not care about the NBA Cup in general. Banner, no banner, NBA Cup, tournament, no tournament. Do not care. That's my worst.
It is the in-season tournament is just stupid. Very stupid. My best thing in sports, Phillip Rivers almost pulling it off last week. It's pretty good, man. Phillip Rivers getting out there at the age of 44, not playing football in 5 years. Hey, he didn't light the world up or anything, but almost won the game on the road when his team was a 13.5-point underdog. And I am interested to watch him play again coming up on Monday Night Football this week. So I will give Phillip Rivers my best thing in sports. Honorable mention to the battle last night I was watching halfway with the Predators game going on between the Delaware Fighting Blue Hens and the Louisiana Lafayette Raging Cajuns. Honorable mention to that game last night in the what bowl was that? The 68 Ventures Bowl, I think is what it was. So that was good.
Oh, okay.
There you go. My worst thing in sports, Micah Parsons tearing his ACL, physical pain that I've been feeling all week, emotional pain, any pain you want to describe. I've been feeling it all week on the Micah Parsons front, and I'm not over it. I won't get over it.
Yeah, it sucks. And you could make a worst out of Parsons and Mahomes on the same day. It's always, it's every year in the NFL. There are going to be some of the best players in the league are going to get knocked out for the season. It's guaranteed to happen, but it still always sucks and a good candidate for worst. To your point on your best, Jeff from Nebraska also says like the presser and the stuff that he was saying post game speech, it could be part of the best too. I mean, Phillip Rivers talking pretty much worth the price of admission.
Yeah, pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. And to Ian's point, we get the playoff coming up this weekend. By the way, our college football game of the week is Alabama and Oklahoma, first round of the college football playoff. The action starts tomorrow night at 7 o'clock on 102.5 The Game. Coverage presented by Circus Sportsbook Kentucky, also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. We will get a little bit more into the college football playoff tomorrow. But, Joe, it will be, I believe, Kuharski with me tomorrow, and you are off tomorrow. So let's go ahead and get your thoughts on the matchups, and we'll spend time focusing in on the two. We'll get to the official picks tomorrow, but what do you make of Alabama and Oklahoma, and then Miami and Texas A&M in the two big ones this weekend?
Yeah, well, I'll start with Alabama, Oklahoma. I've been working on a story on Ty Simpson and his family. It's a fascinating family. Graham, his little brother, is going to be the next big thing. He just threw for 510 in the first half for Westview High to win the state title. But I think this is breaking news from me at The Athletic, but he's been getting epidurals in his back for the past few weeks. There's been all these message boards rumors about a back injury, and it's real, and it's been bad. And it also, he had medicine that messed his stomach up really bad, et cetera, et cetera. So he's had this rest time. They say it's not going to be surgical. Well, is this enough rest for him to get back? Let's remember, we talked about it a lot. Like, he looks like the Heisman winner. He looks like maybe the number one pick, right? As of early November, and all of a sudden it's gotten a lot worse for Alabama and for him. And not trying to excuse that, but I do wonder if a little bit extra rest, he's going to look a little bit more like Ty Simpson of early November. And if he does, I really like Alabama. I mean, Alabama should win the game. They dominated the first game. I understand it's on the road. I like Alabama. Miami, Texas A&M. I mean, I'm fascinated by how good is Texas A&M, because this season, and this is a problem with conference, one of many problems with these massive conferences. Like, it just turned out that they didn't really play much of a schedule. So they're at home. It should be an amazing environment. I can't wait to see the environment. And if Miami's playing the way they have lately, I think they have a really good chance to win that game.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to that. Unfortunately, we have to watch James Madison and Tulane in the process of all this too, so that'll be great too.
Get your shots in.
Looking forward to that.
Get your shots in. Go Cinderella. I'll be watching and rooting for, something surprising.
I'm
It
sure,
happens.
I'll
It's
watch
sports.
the first 3-4 drives, I'm sure, and then when it's 28-0 early in the second quarter, I'll probably tune away. That'll probably be how it goes for me this weekend.
God, I need at least one of them to be like shockingly close, and I'm just going to tweet play-by-play and tag you on every one.
Well, you'll have to do it because I won't be watching. That's for sure.
Even if it's close?
I'm not watching James Madison in the playoff. I'm sorry.
So James Madison's in a close game in the fourth quarter driving for the win. Because it's James Madison, you're not going to watch it?
That is correct.
Okay, that's ridiculous.
Just saying. I'm just being honest, being real on the show. Joe, have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.
You too. All right. Thanks, guys.
Next Man Up with Jake Lyman coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.